Hey guys. So this is the video to explain the assignment that I just put out yesterday, The Road to Civil Rights. I'm going to walk you through how to add text to this PDF if you're working online. I'm going to explain each step, um, what to do and what to learn from it, as well as just kind of maybe give you some background context for how this is going to connect. So when you get your version, right now, if you see my screen, I've got in the top right hand corner this little text box with a plus sign. Now, that's because I already have this physically downloaded. Now, the steps for getting yours to look the same way, where you can add text, your version should still have this download icon here, where it's the arrow. So when you open this up on Google Classroom or even through the email, your version should give you the ability to download. And when you do that, sorry, I'm trying to have it pull it up for you. If it doesn't have this annotate little pencil right here, it should also then give you the option to save, and you will have this add a comment text box. Most of you figured this out last 2 weeks ago with the You've Got Rights. So it's the same method where if you want to add a comment, you would kind of highlight your area just like so. And in that area is where you would then be able to um, add in your text. So that is how you're going to be doing that for the rest of the year with some of these iCivics PDFs, okay? So for this first section, this is going to break down the main leaders, events, laws, and courts, and the groups that came out of this era. Simple enough, you're just trying to separate your options in the middle correctly, putting them in the right sections, just to give you a sense of maybe what you already understand. And hopefully, by process of elimination, you'll be able to figure out where they all belong. So, in a way, I think in 2020, it might be a little hard for us to wrap our minds around some of the incredible discrepancies that did exist in our society only 60, 70 years ago. Um, so let's just consider some of them. Like, what if your state decided that only children of the same race could attend school together? Well, then our school district of Pennsauken would be illegal. I would not be allowed to be your teacher. What if there's a law that says you can only marry someone who's the same race as you? Same thing. Like, I've got members of my own family that would be illegal then. What if all the city buses, trains, subway cars had separate areas for different races? How would our school bus look? Well, we would have completely separate school buses for each race. Isn't that crazy? What if the house that you wanted to buy is in a neighborhood that only allows people of a certain race to move in? Once again, our township of Pennsauken would be illegal. We'd be completely separated from each other by law. That's crazy, and that's not right. Last one. What if you were turned away from a hotel that you wanted to stay at while on vacation because they didn't serve people of your race? Would you be allowed to stay in other hotels, or how far would you have to travel just to find one that would allow you to? And something we're going to focus on a lot, what if you went to vote and you assumed that you could just wait in line just like everyone else and be allowed to vote, that your voice should matter? But what if they gave you a really hard test to take, and then upon not passing that test, they told you you're not allowed to vote? That's not right. That takes away your civil liberty. So we're going to readdress this later on. So you've got a reading section, which is going to help you understand the story of how this setting kind of came into being. And one of the first things you're going to learn about is some of the major players, some of the people that we now know their names, such as Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., Medgar Evers, who played such strong, prominent leadership roles at the time to get some of these changes put into effect. And unfortunately, for those three that were just listed, all three of them lost their lives to assassination due to some of the minority negative pushback from extreme people who did not want these changes to take place and blame these specific leaders for their roles in getting them accomplished. So, unfortunately, those three that we now kind of learn about, their names are tied to this movement even more because of losing their lives for what they believed in. Um, and another big thing is some of the methods that specifically were chosen to finally get these changes taken in place. It's not like people hadn't tried this before, but specifically some of the coordinated protests that were meant to be peaceful on purpose, how they accomplished their goals and the different methods that were used to change society. Um, I want you to learn about that. We're going to talk about that a lot for a project later this week. You are going to see how leadership at the very top of government played a role in kind of recognizing the sign of the times between President Kennedy, who also unfortunately was assassinated in the same era, potentially for his support of these changes, and then his successor, Lyndon B. Johnson, how they decisively used the momentum that was being built to put these changes into place that then did guarantee um, communities of color, specifically African Americans, the civil rights that they should have been having all along for like 100 years. So that includes the courts as well that overruled some of these major laws, such as Brown versus the Board of Education, which when the Supreme Court overruled that, it said schools should not be separated based on race, that that's not giving equal education to all children of America, and that we need to change that. And you're also, of course, going to learn about some of the reasons why people opposed these major changes. I think most people have heard of the KKK or the Ku Klux Klan. So this is where that story kind of comes into play. Now, for this section, after you've learned some of this, you're going to try to match up how these protest signs were kind of a middle point between the problem and the eventual solution. So you'll have 6 spaces, and you'll use your 6 boxes here. Probably just number them like, when you're adding your text 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or you could do, A through F. And you're going to correctly add in where they match up here. So same thing, you could just be putting it where it's like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, A, B through F. You're going to match that up. You have 6 vocabulary terms to match up. And then in this section, it's going to give you actual diary from people who took place in some of these protests. And based on the clues that they give you, you're going to identify which of these 4 forms it was in these accounts, whether it's a march, whether it's a boycott, a sit-in, or a voter registration drive. So you want to read the clues carefully to figure out which one it is. Oh, man. So acronyms. An acronym would be something like NJEA, the New Jersey Education Association, or the NAACP. These are like shortened versions of long names. So you're going to match up which acronym is supported by the following words. You are going to learn about some of the basics of the most famous people that came out of this era, such also as Rosa Parks, Lyndon Brown. And then the section down here actually matches up that what if that we started with, like, oh, like what if you can't go to school of other kids with the same race, or what if um were denied a hotel room. This is actually going to have you connect, probably just try to draw a line between where these things actually took place and what was the solution. So just kind of like matching them up with lines. Then the last section is just matching up the actual map geography of where these famous places were. So it'll give you seven different places, and you can just use Google Maps to find out where these cities were located in what states, and you'll just match them up with the stars, so you can understand kind of geographically where the civil rights movement primarily was driven by. Okay. So that should hopefully help explain this big, long assignment that you got yesterday. It is worth a lot of points because it's a lot of work, and it's also very important stuff that we need to learn to start off our unit for the civil rights movement.